Today we're talking to student Matt Legg. Having recovered from a bout of depression, which has forced him to defer his university studies for a year, Matt has been working on the campaign FC Not Alone, which has raised over £10,000 for mental health charities, and he's also encouraging people to talk about their issues. We asked Matt, from his experience, what would he say that government, universities and society should be doing as a whole to improve mental health amongst young people, particularly amongst students?
Mental health issues are pandemic throughout the UK. There was 146 suicides in 2016, student suicides that is, and 136 the year before. At uni, you are faced with an extraordinary number of pressures, socially, academically, sporting, and finally financially. You have this pressure that, oh my word, I'm paying £9,000 a year and I'm supposed to be enjoying myself, succeeding. It's normal you're going to feel at times down about it because it is such enormous pressure on you. It feels that way at times. There's a lot more publicity towards success and the need for student success, and there's just endless pressures on people in society, and if you have no outlet for that, it can come all together, and that's what kind of makes the anxiety grow. And anxiety, if not dealt with, or if you don't learn these techniques, it can easily tip into depression, and that's what happened in my case.
As you say, it's a common problem at university. Did your uni help you, or is there something more they could have done? Or
my university were good, and it's not their fault. It is underfunded mental health at universities, and it really ought not to be, given that mental health is vital to their student success. What I'd like to see would be a link made between the academic side of university and the support services, so that they're in contact with one another. The issue that's happening at university is, once you are 18 plus, in theory, you're your own boss. But some people, as I was, were too ill to communicate to the support services about how they were, or once they had, the support services don't have the power to then contact their parents, guardians, loved ones. So if there could be some sort of way that in a time of trouble that the support services can contact the students' emergency contacts, that would be great. And then more just work between the NHS services at university towns and the universities to help those students who are most vulnerable.
So apart from your family and friends, obviously, and Palm, who you mentioned before, is it the responsibility of the government and society to help with mental health, particularly in young men?
I think it really is the responsibility of government and society. Government needs to be the force that helps bring through changes that can drive positive social change, especially with men, so they feel supported, they feel like they can discuss what they're going through in a way that they haven't been able to before, that can help kind of thrust these support services onto people that didn't know they exist. And I think, as amazing as it is, there are so many mental health foundations and charities. My view, and I've heard it recently, is that in certain areas, when there's a large number of charities, it means that government or society is failing, because these charities need to be initiated in order to provide the necessary support services that aren't being provided by government. The best thing about mental health foundations are they're very open to working with one another. So they've been working together on Young Minds, on Where's Your Head At, a campaign by Natasha Devon, and they can all come together, and ultimately they're all fighting for the same purpose. They're just doing it in slightly different ways, slightly different techniques, slightly different initiatives, but if there would be a way in order to unify all of them, that would be incredible, and I think the government could play a role in allowing that to happen.
Great. I think that sounds like a very sensible idea.
As though I hope it happens one day.
Earlier we were talking about universities, and your university in particular, how they did help you when you were kind of at rock bottom, I guess. But what could universities do to sort of prevent that?
Undoubtedly, at all universities there are support services there. I think they just need to do a lot more to publicise them, how to access them, and also offer maybe workshops of techniques to deal with anxiety. I did a compassionate mind therapy course, which was amazing. There's also kind of meditation and all this sort of stuff. They need to advertise and publicise and make sure the students can access these services if necessary. They also do need to increase funding, because in recent years there's been a 90% increase in the request for services, and frankly there aren't staff there, and sometimes staff who just aren't qualified, and it's not their fault, they just haven't received the right training. So if they're faced with any sort of issue, if it's someone with, you know, just building anxiety, or someone who just doesn't feel right, they can deal with that. But if it's anything more severe, it's just not in their remit because they haven't been trained. And so with increased funding you could get increased expertise, and then once you have that, to then make it, just offer it to all students is probably the way forward, I'd see it.
And I suppose normalising it as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it needs to be normalised, because it is something that's so common. That's one of the main things I've learned throughout this. When I first had everything going on, I was like, oh no, you know, this is something this hasn't happened to a lot of people. It does. It does. We just don't talk about it because it's a topic that makes people uncomfortable. It needs to be normalised. The sooner it's normalised, sooner people just talk about it and don't feel they can't talk about it. That's what will help move us forward, I think, in terms of men's mental health.
I think you picked the perfect name for the football club, Not Alone FC. I think it says everything that you're kind of saying today.
Yeah, I've got to give my cousin credit for that one, to be fair. But
you've spoken about sort of talking about your own feelings and things like that, but do you think things like films, documentaries, more public conversations would help people kind of normalise and realise it's okay?
Of course, because I think the more you see it, the more it becomes a normal part of your daily life, and hence you won't be so afraid to talk about it. Things that have helped me in the past have been podcasts. When I've listened to Andrew Flintoff on Flintoff Savage and the Ping Pong Guy discuss his problems, not his problems, but more his issues surrounding depression and anxiety. I've seen several documentaries that have been hard to find, but I found them online, about sportsmen going through problems concerning anxiety and depression. Jonny Wilkinson recently came out, and that really took off. And I think since then there's already been a change in terms of people wanting to talk. But in terms of everyday media, the more we can get this issue being discussed, the closer it will be to getting normalised, and then we can have it as part of our culture that this is an issue, but we're talking about it and we're sorting it out.